Extend is one of my favorite commands within KQL. Extend lets you create new columns within your output. Here, I am taking my perf table, and I'm going to limit the results to where the counter is equal to free megabytes. And then what I want to do is to create a new column called free GB, short for free gigabytes, and I'm simply taking my counter value and dividing it by 1,000. So when I execute this, it's going to return my result set. So I'm going to have to come down here and we'll scroll all the way to the right. By default, any columns that are created will come here to the right. And I'm going to have to scroll my window over just a bit. And there you go. There we can see our free GB column. And it tells us we have 25 gigabytes free, 0.3 gigabytes free, and so forth. Now in the next section, we'll see how to actually reorder some of these columns. But for now, just understand that when you create a new column by using extend, you can scroll to the right to actually see the values. Also be aware we're having to do a little bit of scrolling for the stuff over on the right due to the low resolution screen display we use for recording here at Pluralsight. When you're doing this on your monitor at work or at home, most commonly you're going to be, say, on a 1920 by 1080 screen, and so this should look okay without having to do a lot of left and right scrolling. So let's scroll back here to the left. And I want to show you that I can actually use extend to extend multiple columns at the same time. Here you can see I'm actually adding two columns. I'm doing a free gigabyte column, which is my counter value divided by 1,000, but I'm going to also add a free kilobyte column. To get kilobytes, I'll need to take my megabytes and multiply it by 1,000. So when we run this, I get my results back, and we'll have to come down here again and do our scrolling. So we'll scroll all the way to the right here, and then within the result set, I'll scroll all the way to the right there, and we can see my free gigabytes and free kilobytes columns. All right, cool. So let's go back over here, and we'll scroll down. We can actually use this to repeat a column if we wanted to. So for example, maybe in my output, I want to have my columns named as free GB, free MB, and free KB. Well, the counter value is already in megabytes, so we don't really need to do any calculations to it. But what I can actually do is say, hey, I want you to actually return this counter value column, but rename it to free megabytes. So we'll run him. And so if I come down here, you're going to see, I'll scroll over here, and I just want to point out that my original column, counter value, is still there. That's because I didn't really rename it. I just created a new extended or calculated value called free megabytes based on it. So if I scroll all the way to the right, and we'll also have to scroll this, and now you can see I've got free GB, free MB, and free KB all listed as part of my output. In addition to extending to create numeric values, we can also create new string values. Here, I'm going to extend, and I'm going to create a new column called object counter, and I'm going to use a function called strcat, which is short for string concatenation. Basically, it just says, take all the columns or all of the text values that are in parentheses and concatenate them together into one long string. So here I'm going to have the object name column, then I'm going to have a hard-coded space dash space, and then I'm going to add the counter name column. So let's execute this. And of course I'm saying where my time generated is just in the last 10 minutes to make this run fairly quickly. And if I look down at the bottom, we'll have to come down here and we'll scroll off to the right, and then we'll scroll the result set all the way to the right. There is my new object counter column. I have memory dash available MB memory, memory dash percent available memory, and so forth. We'll learn more about strcat in a future module, but I think you can see why extend is such a powerful command, and it's one that you'll be using quite a bit within the world of KQL.